Welcome everybody to Talk of the Town from our fabulous state capitol. Sitting right here in Austin. Josh Lee, I'm Director of Communications for the city and one of the hosts of Talk of the Town.
Mayor Kevin Cole, and here in Austin. It's been Pearland Day in Austin today, and tomorrow we'll finish up. We've actually been here with Brazoria County Day on Monday and Tuesday as well. It's an advocating for our community, things we want, things we don't want, those types of things. Advocating for some money, funding, and all of that. We have our President and CEO of the Pearland Chamber of Commerce, Jim Johnson, here with us as well. And so we're going to kick off our show today and give Jim kind of the floor to talk a little bit about Pearland Day.
Wonderful.
How long we've been doing this, what does it mean, what's some of our priorities that we're advocating for while we're up here in Austin.
No, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Josh. Excited to be on Talk of the Town. You know, I'm a loyal watcher of the live stream. I'm the LinkedIn person that watches on LinkedIn, but excited to be here.
I'll autograph your tie later.
Please do, please do. Again, Jim Johnson, I'm the President and CEO with the Pearland Chamber, and we're here for Pearland Day in Austin. It's our 13th year to have here in Austin and bring our voice of Pearland up to our legislators in Austin and really talk about what's important to our business community from Pearland.
Right. So how many visits, how many agency visits, how many things like that when we talk about, and most of those visits have happened today.
Yes, sir.
So what does that look like?
Yeah, so we started, we've been at it all day. We had a great time being recognized with Pearland Day on the House and the Senate floor. Took a group photo in the rotunda. Nearly 85 people were here representing Pearland. It was great to have some of the Pearland ISD their student ambassadors, join us for the photo, and they're up here learning about our state as well.
Because one of our priorities is
public education. Yeah, and we did. You asked 38 plus visits this afternoon. So we broke into teams. They go visit and share our priorities. Our number one priority is mental health. It's a need in our community. We see it as a crisis in Brazoria County. And we've been working with our legislators. This is our second session, third straight year to be here to really talk about seeing an inpatient, a mental health hospital built in Brazoria County. And we're seeing very positive traction and hope to see that come to life to help work toward that. And we want to cover mental health and more counselors and more dedicated crisis unit for our community. But yeah, public education, Josh, that's one of our areas. We do support funding public education first, and we want to see our great schools. And Mayor, you know, Pearland ISD's got a lot of school districts, but Alvin ISD and Pearland ISD are our two largest, and we do need to see public schools funded first. We want to see the basic allotment increase for the first time. That's how schools get funded since 2019, and see teacher pay go up. Those are part of our priorities. Plus, we need to make sure we have access to water, incentives for economic development, and ensure that we see our community colleges still to get the funding through outcomes-based funding.
Right, and those are very similar to the city's priorities as well. We have a full approved legislative agenda approved by our council that we can advocate for as well. And there's four main areas that we advocate around. I was just going to make sure I have these. Local control.
Absolutely.
You know, and because the people who really know your community, know what we need, what we don't need, and those types of things are your local elected officials, your appointed officials, your city managers, and those. And so we want to make sure that we have local control, keeping families safe and healthy. Part of that is mental health. The mental health crisis is not just a law enforcement thing. It's not just a homeless thing. It's a family thing. And we see that, and we want to make sure that that's part of health, as well as, you know, just good access to medical care and those types of things. And then economic development, you mentioned that, jobs, making sure that we're expanding jobs, creating jobs, business growth, making sure that the local economy is healthy. Because at the end of the day, I think the best form of, I hate to say it, welfare, if you will, is making sure that people have great jobs.
Absolutely.
And if people have great jobs, they're self-sufficient, they're taking care of their families. And then last but not least, we want to make sure that we're increasing efficiency and reducing waste. And I know there's, you know, people who think, you know, maybe at the city we waste money or we do this. It's a matter of opinion. And what's interesting is, you know, in the last 4-5 years, the way we've done our budgets, we've really pared our budgets down to 4 main areas: police, fire, public works, that's streets, roads, drainage, obviously water and sewer, you know, those types of things, and then parks. And then the other departments like communications, like legal, HR, finance, IT, and the like, all support those 4 main areas.
Okay.
Now, having said that, we are very conscious of dollars that we spend.
Right.
And so even our staff is now even at the point where they look at, like, let's say an employee left, the city, one of the first questions that's asked is, can that position be
Right.
absorbed?
Yeah. Sure.
Can we get by without it? Or do we need the body?
Right.
I mean, sometimes it's as simple as that. But we really challenge those things, even on a one-by-one, one case-by-case basis, but one employee.
Right.
And so that's how you do this. And so we're really doing some efficiency and looking at those things. We've been doing that for the last couple of years anyway. And just making sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. Sometimes cities, government, we see this at the federal government right now, they get caught out doing things that might be great ideas,
right.
but is it the role and responsibility of the federal government? Is it the role and responsibility of the state government? Is it our role or responsibility? Same thing with the school district. Is it their role or responsibility? And that if it's not, who can we help to partner to get that done? And so we have to be careful how we do that. And so
and that's one of the things about, speaking of partnerships, a great benefit of Pearland Day in Austin. And thanks to Jim and the Chamber for facilitating all of this, because a lot of the people that we talk to don't directly represent Pearland, but they do sit on committees that have an influence,
that have an
things
impact,
that have an impact.
Like natural resources or culture and tourism, education, healthcare.
And the effort that we make here is to put a name with a face to establish that relationship, and then have a clearly articulated set of priorities with very thoughtful points that support them. So that we can say, look, as a community, here's what we stand for, and here's what our expectations are, and I think that the legislators, it seems like they're appreciative of that input as well. So it's a very symbiotic relationship.
And I think that's what's so special about Pearland Day in Austin is it's not just the chamber in the city, it's our ISDs, our colleges, our university, our business, our county, our JPs, our constables. It's a wide range of people coming together with shared vision for a community.
Right.
Like you said, the city has your priorities, but they're not so far from the chamber. They're not so far from the county, the school district, and we all come together to really bring the voice of Pearland, to Austin. And like you said, local control is so vital to ensuring that when it's the responsibility of y'all have the ability to make those decisions for the best of Pearland.
Correct. And for the most part, you hear reps and senators saying we want those controls in the locals, in their hands. And from time to time, bills get filed that might take away some of that. And so we want to make sure that we understand the bill, number one. Sometimes a bill gets filed and we'll have a caption of a bill and we think it's something, but then we go ask the representative, what's behind all this? And it's kind of amazing, you then have that dialogue, and they know what you stand for and what they're trying to do, and all that's good. But it also, one thing about it is it's building those relationships too. We have 5 state reps that come into the city of Pearland. Most people don't know that. We have Representative Berry, Representative Asute, who have big chunks, but we have Representative Dennis Paul, who like the Green Tea and Riverstone Ranch area and then we have Alma Allen on the rest of Harris County, and then we have Ron Reynolds in our a very small section of his district is in our far western edge.
But that's still 5 people
But that's 5 people who have a voice.
Right.
We have both Republicans and Democrats. Most of the issues that we're dealing with are not R versus D. It's nuts and bolts of trying to deal with our city. Like I said, police, fire, streets, public works, and parks.
Infrastructure and safety.
Infrastructure and safety, and it's real simple, but it's not.
Right.
That's
Lots of
simplicity is complex. Is
but
what
part
we
of
say.
it also, Jim, is we're actually at a building right next to the Capitol right now with the Trial Lawyers Building. It's an office building, and on the top is the Trial Lawyers Association, and they have a beautiful balcony that we have a reception. So at the end of the day, we have all of these people, 85 people out, and we all come together, and then we talk about what did we learn today? What did we see today? How do we advocate? Where do we have a problem? Those types of things.
And what's next too? Because
what's next?
It's not just a field trip. This is purposeful work that organizations are coming together to say what's at. And like I said, 2 years ago, was our first conversation on mental health. And look at us today where we're at, and
Right.
look at the work that y'all have done in, whether Clear Creek. And I remember, Mayor, we came here in the 2013, we were talking about the flyovers on 288
Right.
and bringing that thing. And those are
And they're
vital.
here.
Yeah. So it takes time, but it
takes time. It's building relationships, but that's why we're here and that's what we're doing. I know we've got a reception
Yes, sir.
that just got started, kicking off. I know you need to get there and help with all the
Yeah.
folks and put your chamber hat on.
Put my chamber hat on, but
and
this
go
is
do
great.
that.
Beautiful
Yeah.
location. Y'all's city locations are great, but when you got a backdrop, it's pretty nice. So
Yeah.
enjoy
Yeah.
that, guys. So
We
awesome.
appreciate you. Thanks for coming
Yeah.
on today.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate the
All right.
opportunity.
Thanks.
Let's get into our questions. You
Yep.
want to start with the pothole conversation? I know we got a lot of comments.
Yeah, we get
that.
obviously we get comments all the time, and it's just educating people on what we do with street repair, pothole repair, and those types of things. I mean, we just came through and when you've got the asphalt streets, the issues with asphalt streets is the sub base. It's underneath.
Sure.
It's
Yep.
not. I mean, ultimately it's the riding surface, but it's what happens underneath, and so. We've just come through a time where we've been hot, cold, we've had rain,
Yep.
we've had snow and ice, and anytime we have that, if we have severe drought, if we have severe rains, that exacerbates.
Severe weather, generally speaking.
It exacerbates the problem
Yep.
that we already have, and so it'll take potholes that have been filled and create new potholes
Yep.
with it. So it's an ongoing process. We tell people continue to be patient. We
Yep.
we just finished a contract, outside contract. We have another contract coming up for council to approve here in about $1 million worth of contract. I think it's going to be in March. I know it's coming up soon. So we want to make sure, and then we have a contract with our county to come up. So there's been questions in here about veterans, for example.
Yeah.
And so, yes, we're going to continue to fill potholes on veterans, because veterans is in our contract with the county to be redone this year.
Yep.
And so we've stated that now publicly in each one of these shows.
Sure.
It's out there. That is our plan. That's what we're doing. And so it wouldn't make sense for us to pour tons of money into veterans to do a stopgap if we're coming in with the county.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
and people want to know, well, why are we waiting on the county? Well, when you pay your county taxes, you pay a road and bridge fee. You pay a road and bridge tax.
Yep.
Well, that road and bridge money, we're in the city. They have county roads that they use that on. Well, this is a program with the county that some of those tax dollars come back into the city and help us. So we supply material, and they supply
At their
the work
cost. I mean,
at their cost.
We get it. That's
Yeah.
one benefit of it too.
Yeah,
We get it at a much lower
because
rate.
they're doing so much more asphalt across the county,
Sure.
they have a lower cost on that.
Yep.
But we pay the cost of the material, and then they come
They
in
provide
and
the equipment and-
equipment and manpower
Yep, yep.
to do it. So that's been an ongoing relationship with the county for 30 plus years.
Right.
It's actually worked pretty well, but we just ask people to continue to be patient. We just came through that, and I've actually been talking with staff in how we can take some of these asphalt streets, and instead of converting them to concrete curb and gutter where we're filling in the open ditches, that's where the cost is. What most people don't, I guess, really look or know is when we go and redo, let's say we redid veterans and we made it, kept it
Concrete
two
curb,
lane.
yep.
We did concrete curb and gutter, and we were filling it in. We had to do box culverts and all that kind of stuff
Yep.
for the drainage. Our cost for that roadway escalates. I mean, drastically goes up.
Sure.
If we can just come in and replace the asphalt,
Yep.
and then sub-base and do concrete, that cost can come way back down. Now, that's still a big cost.
Right.
And so we're looking at how we can do that and strategically do that, especially in a lot
That's
of
a
these.
long-term strategy.
It's long
Or
to short term.
medium term, yeah,
okay. We would probably need to do a bond program to do that.
Right.
But fast track it and get a lot of it done at once.
Well, and that's
So-
mentioning veterans specifically. Finding that balancing act of getting a project done and doing it as fiscally conservatively as
Right.
possible,
Right.
and leveraging that county relationship. Because one of the things to point out specifically, residents pay that road and bridge tax, but the county does not have to spend that money in the city. We're fortunate to have that relationship,
Right.
And to be able to have that agreement.
Yeah,
so
there's
that those
nothing
resources come back.
legally that obligates them
Right.
to do that.
But-
we just have those relationships to make
Yep.
sure, because they understand it's those dollars coming back. In addition to that, some of our asphalt streets, we will be reworking as part of our drainage program that was passed and approved in 23.
Yep.
Okay, and as we come in and do some drainage projects, it doesn't make sense for us to come in and redo that road.
Yep.
Then we're going to come in and tear it up,
Yep.
doing the drainage.
Doing twice as much work.
And then turn back around and do it again.
Yep.
So we have to be strategic. We have to be prudent in how we spend those resources.
Sure.
And so a lot of those streets will get redone as we do some of these drainage projects. I'll give you a great example of one that's actually going to go curb and gutter and everything else, but we're going to expand the road. It's Harkey. We've seen Harkey deteriorate, quite a bit, and we see it. So we're going to continue to fill.
Yep.
Okay. We should be going to design work soon, and that's a project that's supposed to start in about 27.
Okay.
And so we'll have a drainage project, and then on the end of it, we're actually converting it to concrete 4-lane curb and gutter from Broadway to Marys Creek. And so that'll take it basically down to Magnolia.
Awesome.
And so, we're not going to come in and spend a ton of money
Sure.
redoing the roadway
Just to redo it
just to
again.
turn right around and redo it. So,
And one thing I actually learned the other day, I never knew this, but we do have our own patch truck. We have our own hot mix for, that the team goes out and does potholes. There's a minimum operating temperature, which makes sense. But if it's under, I believe it's 55 or maybe it's 45 degrees, somewhere in that range, 55, the mix won't take. And so when it gets cold, we can't do potholes.
So we're
anyways.
behind the 8 ball in this
Right.
this time of year. In addition to that, council authorized a second crew to do that.
Yep.
In this current budget. So we're in the process of securing the necessary equipment, vehicles, and manpower
Right.
to put them to work. And so that will help us on just regular routine pothole maintenance and those types of things, get us help. I don't know that we'll be caught up until we redo some of these, but
Sure.
we'll at least be hopefully putting a dent into some of it. But it's a frustration with people. It's a frustration with me.
Yep.
It's a frustration with our council. It's a frustration with staff. And at some level, there's also a certain amount of work that crew can do.
Yeah.
So
So I guess that you could say that second crew is going to help fill the gaps.
correct. Fill the holes. Yeah. There you go.
Sorry, I couldn't put it. I couldn't.
Yeah. So as far as kind of potholes and road maintenance and those types of things, I think we kind of covered it holistically
I think
there.
so.
Let's just hit some of these questions and.
Yeah, so we'll just go one down.
Yeah.
So what is the city doing for our animals that are out running at night? And do we have any animal control service officers out there at night to pick up any stray animals?
We actually do. We usually have, and it's not a big crew. It's usually one that's working overnight. Again, it's about resources and dollars and effectiveness. Usually by the time one of our crew members are alerted, called, and by the time they get there, the animal's gone.
Yeah.
And so, if you really want to completely lock down and not have strays on the street, you'd have to have 100 animal control people because you have to have them everywhere.
Yeah.
That's not prudent.
We don't have the budget for that.
We don't have the budget for that. So, but we do have people overnight working in the event we have that animal that we need help with.
Okay. When will the Hughes Road expansion start, and when is it projected to be finished?
Okay, I'm actually Joe and Josh. I want to make sure that we get a good answer back to them on the schedule.
Okay. Yeah,
I don't want
we'll make a note of
to
that.
misstate the schedule, but we are in design phase now. This is a project that we're jointly doing with Harris County Precinct 2.
Yep.
So we had to work out
Which helped fund
It
the
helped.
project?
It helped fund it. It helped
Yep.
save us some dollars, which is very good. But we had to get some agreements and stuff worked out with them to
Yep.
finalize. But we have approved, and they've already kicked off the final design on that. But once we get that done, it will be probably about an 18-month construction, and that's why I want to get an exact schedule to the constituent who put this in.
Yep.
So we can. I don't want to speak out of turn on when we're planning to start and when it'll be finished, but it should be about an 18-month. We have to expand that bridge that goes over Clear Creek, and that's going to be that's going to drive the schedule.
Okay.
On that project.
Next one says, I'm worried about what they're doing with the drainage on Scott Lane. it seems the last couple rains they were the east side of Scott was high.
Yeah.
Or high and dry. I'm sorry, the west side had water in the ditches.
Yeah, I read this. So I'm going to, great question, great comment, and great feedback. We're going to turn this over. We have a dedicated drainage crew.
Yep.
So I want to turn this over to them to go, one, analyze, look at it, check for it, and then see what they can do to, as far as creating the ticket to maintain it and see what's going on out there. Well, it might be something that's blocking.
Yeah.
And so we just need to get them to observe.
And that's a good point. The drainage maintenance crew, and we have the information on our website. There's an interactive map where you can see all the areas where they've been working. There's a full 10-year plan to repair and maintain all of the open ditches, all the curb and gutter, all of the drainage maintenance throughout the city, because if you don't keep it maintained, it doesn't flow properly.
Right.
So that's a good resource to look through as well.
And they're doing real well.
They are,
in that 10-year schedule.
They've had a significant impact, and that's an estimate. They find areas where they can move faster, other areas that are, presenting potential issues. But look at that map as well, because there's lots of good information there. Another animal control question. What is animal control doing about coyotes?
Yeah, so I'm going to have to defer a little bit to our animal control and our police department on what we can and can't do. Unfortunately, we have some state law provisions that get into some of our way on some of this with respects to coyotes and naturalized animals. I know we can trap them.
Yep.
Unfortunately, we can't do anything further, so they have to ultimately be released. I know that's part of the state law provisions, and so it's difficult. So we tell people, if you're in the creek areas and you see coyotes, certainly call animal control. We can do some things about it, but also this is where you got to be careful with your own animals, your own pets. Yep. Cats and dogs, and because those coyotes are looking for them, and that is unfortunate. But we are limited in some of what we can do by state law.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, this next one, I'm just going to read it verbatim so I don't make sure I don't miss any context of it. It says, we are in the top 10 highest taxed cities in the country. Why aren't there streetlights on our roads? Smith Ranch Road is more dangerous now than before, and no lights. The edges of the road are crumbling away, creating a very hazardous situation. I challenge you, Mayor Cole, to drive Smith Ranch Road at night.
Yeah, so good news. I've driven it at night, and I'm here to tell about it. It is not the best situation, best road in the world, but Smith Ranch Road is a road that is now mobilized. It's one that we're redoing, 4 lanes, concrete, curb gutter, the whole thing. We've received dollars through the federal government, down through the Transportation Policy Council and the TIP, to help pay for that. We have issued those contracts. I believe they've mobilized. They are trying to work on the edges of this road so they can stabilize that driving surface as they are working that project.
Yep.
Now, as far as streetlights are concerned, streetlights for the most part are driven by CenterPoint.
Yep.
Okay, and it does not make sense for us to come in right now and do streetlights on Smith Ranch Road.
Yeah.
When you're redoing the road.
Right.
Okay, that's throwing good money after bad. Okay,
Just like with redoing
it would not make sense to do that.
Yep.
I tell people, if you can, avoid it. I understand there's some people who can't, but avoid those areas, especially when they're under construction. And then after the construction is done, CenterPoint comes in and there's street lights that come back in. There's another question later. Talking specifically about, I think it's McCard.
McCard, yes.
And there's a segment there that there's no streetlights.
McCard from Cullen to Stone.
And so there has been a problem identified by CenterPoint in getting electricity in that area.
Oh.
Okay, and they are working on how they make that happen. And until CenterPoint can make that happen, it's not going to have streetlights because the electricity is not in that area just yet. They're working on their plan.
Got it.
I will certainly escalate that with CenterPoint additionally, but that's the reason why you don't have it. I do want to address the question about top 10 highest tax cities in the country and all this kind of stuff. And so I'm just going to say this: when your tax bill and you look at your overall tax bill, the city is between 25 and 30% of that total tax bill.
Right.
I have zero say in school taxes. I have zero say in your county taxes. I have zero say in any special districts, like if you live in a MUD district or anything else. Having said that, we need to be conscious of a total tax bill as a taxing entity, okay? In our community, there are different tax rates all over the community.
Right.
Okay, and I'm going to give you an example. If you live in the Riverstone Ranch area of our city, Harris County, Pasadena ISD, just the difference between the school, the school taxes, Pasadena ISD versus Pearland ISD, it's about 11 cents higher, school tax, okay? And the county tax between Brazoria County and Harris County is 7 or 8 cents higher.
Right.
Okay?
So that alone.
Okay, so there's those two.
Yep.
In addition to that, you have hospital district tax, port tax,
Yep.
you have your MUD tax,
Yep.
you have a hospital, not hospital, the county, Harris County has an education department tax, and then you have Harris County Flood Control.
Yep.
So you've had several special taxes, special district taxes that are on top of the normal. And when you do that, your all-in tax rate is about 2.15 to 2.2% of your value.
Yep.
Okay, which puts you
Right.
all in
In
this range.
This
Now-
is another issue that I would take with this. So this is that comment is probably born out of an article that recently came out
Yeah.
that said we were in the top 10 highest taxes in the country. It's taxes relative to overall valuation, and it was an overly, frankly, candidly speaking, overly simplified statistic so that somebody could write an article that had a catchy headline.
It was clickbait.
To get people to click on it.
It was clickbait.
When you look at all the comparisons, other places.
But we've looked at comparisons, and even within our city. So you take the same value home on the tax rolls from Riverstone Ranch and put it in an older subdivision in town that's not a MUD tax, but it's in Pearland ISD, Brazoria County. They have the city, they have the school, they have the county and the road and bridge.
That's it.
And that's it.
Yep.
And that all-in tax rate and all-in tax bill is in the 1.7% range.
Yep.
Big difference.
Yep.
Okay, and so so it's relative to where you are now. And again, having said that, I mean we need to be cognizant
Need to be
of
mindful. Sure.
overall.
We need
which
to be
is,
good stewards.
Which is why we said earlier we're very conscious of spending and how we do things. We don't want to do things at the city that's not our scope.
Right.
It's not our role.
Yep.
And those types of things. And so it's important that we do that.
Okay, so I think we covered, another question was about the streetlights on McCard. We kind of covered that one. Okay, so we're good there. Another one, this is about light poles at Independence Park. Why are the beautiful light poles all throughout Independence Park walking trail, why are they there? But they're never turned on so you can't walk there past dusk.
I need to actually look into this because I walk about 3 miles in the morning times.
On that trail, right?
And part of my walk goes on that trail, and those lights are on. So it may be a timing
Maybe it's
issue.
timing.
It may be. So I have to look into this as far as timing is concerned with our Parks Department and Public Works on those lights when they come on. But
So
I know
we'll
the lights
check
you're
on that.
talking about, and I know the.
And you've
they're-
seen them on.
Oh, and I've seen them on. I've walked that trail in the morning, before the sun comes up,
Yep.
and they're on.
Yep.
I don't know when time they come on, and that may be
Yep.
part of what we're talking about. But great question. Thanks for bringing it to our attention, and we'll
Yeah, we'll
certainly
make sure to
yeah.
look that up.
Yeah.
Why does the water company have revolving due dates?
Yeah, and I need to understand a little bit more about the question, and I don't know if we're talking about across the city,
The different cycles,
but generally speaking, your due date should be somewhat close each month. Once we finally got through the
The same time each
3230
month.
and we got everything, we should have a meter read date roughly the same each month.
Yep.
And then that due date should be roughly the same each month. So, Joe, as we do this, maybe we can get with this particular one, maybe offline, and ask a little bit more questions
Yeah,
about what
get some
they're
more
seeing.
detail.
And just so we can respond, I don't want to assume anything. I'd rather
If it's
little-
about that they're different from one section of the city to the next, we do have 4 different cycles across the city
Right.
because there are over 40,000 customers.
Right.
And if we tried to process them all at the same time, it would break everything. So
Right.
they break them into geographical chunks to prevent from overwhelming the system and the team that has to process all those
So with
bills.
that, you'll have different due dates as you move across the city.
East to west,
East
right,
to west.
yep.
Yeah. We have 4 cycles. Right.
Right. I would like to know the percentages of homes being bought out by corporations in Pearland instead of private ownership.
That's a great question, and one that I'm not sure that we at the city could track down.
Yeah.
Missouri County Appraisal District, Harris County Appraisal District, and Fort Bend Appraisal District may be able to run a query and give us some information like that. Again,
Because they have much more information about homeowners
right,
than we
the individual owners. I mean, we would literally have to click through each individual one to find out the owner and if it's in a corporation's name or those. And I don't think that would be a good use of staff time. But I think it's one that we can get with BCAD and ask the question. But again, this is one that we can get back with them offline and see if we can get better understanding of the question.
Let's see. Why are the street lights remaining out along North Main Street, starting at roughly 1919 North Main, ending at the city-county line? It's mostly on the northbound side.
Yeah, this is a stretch of roadway that we actually maintain those lights.
Oh, okay.
It was done when the TxDOT required it, when North Main was done, and so we don't keep the equipment because it's a very small number that we have to do. So it's a matter we do it periodically when we get we have to go rent the equipment and do it. It's better than owning that equipment and it sits and sits and sits and then we use it. So I actually noticed it sometime last week. Talked to the city manager a little bit about it and said, hey, we had some stretches in North Main that were out. So Public Works is taking a look at it already on this to get to. So,
Okay. Hughes Ranch Road between Cullen and Stone was repaved about 6 months ago, but it hasn't been striped yet. Do you know when that will happen?
Yeah, I need to actually find out which contract that was done under. I can't remember if that was our county contract or if that was our outside contractor, but let me take a look at that again. Joe, we'll go offline, or we'll respond when I know more directly to them. But good question, and we'll certainly get it back to them.
And then the last one we have on here: why aren't there police patrolling Magnolia east of FM 1128 at night?
I do know we have police patrolling the entire city.
Yep.
They patrol.
They have districts.
They have districts. They patrol morning, noon, and night. There's the same number of officers needed in certain areas. Different shifts have different number of officers, especially because of our as I call it, DDACs and where they go.
Data-driven approach to crime.
To crime, yeah.
There's a DDAC. There's another.
It's the
crime.
S. I can't remember the S.
Yeah. Statistics.
Yeah. So you have your marked units, and then you have your ghost units that you see out there. That's like a white car with white lettering on it. Those move throughout the community. As I call it, kind of a heat map. If we're seeing more crashes or more crime or whatever in a particular area, they move around to address it.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, though, at night you're going to have police patrols in certain districts, and they are patrolling. Now, as you move further west, past Magnolia, past 1128. Shortly after that, you actually get into the county.
Right, which we obviously don't patrol.
Which we do not patrol that portion of the county. Yep. The county does. So if it's that area we're talking about, it would be something to address with Missouri County Sheriff's Department. But I know we have police, in patrols now. If you're sitting there on the road, are you going to see them all the time, every time? You're not, because they're responding to calls as well.
Sure. Right. Yeah, and our GIS, our maps system, there's a great layer that shows where the city boundaries are. So if you ever think, gee, I never see cops in this area, that's a good place to look to see if it's not in the city limits. That would be a perfectly legitimate reason for that. Right. I don't think I've seen any questions online, Joe. So this might be the record for the fastest talk of the town that we've ever done.
It happens.
Any closing comments or thoughts, words of wisdom?
I don't know about words of wisdom, and all that kind of stuff, but There was a question in here. I just kind of want to go back. Why are you coming live from Austin?
Yeah.
Part of our role and responsibility to represent you is also to represent you in Austin and advocate on behalf of our community.
And to do it with Pearland Pride. You might not be able to see this, but we're wearing pear ties and pear earrings and pear socks. I mean, we want to make sure that we stand out in a very positive way for the community.
we want a positive environment at the Capitol. We want positive interaction, build those relationships, and at the end of the day, when we go home, they remember us.
Yep.
And then it has to be year after year after year after year. It won't be the only time, coming to Austin for the session. Usually there'll be something pop up and I'll have to run over here. I testified on a few bills last session.
Oh, wow.
And so that, may have to come over and testify on something coming up. We track bills that will affect our city.
Yep.
We negatively. We also track bills that are positive for our city, and we weigh in on that, and we talk to our representatives. Hey, we're in favor of this. We're not in favor of that, and those types of things. And here's why.
Yeah.
And so we advocate. So it's real important that we're here. It's the reason why Pearland Day is important. It's good for our community.
And the important word is community, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we work for the city, but this is an all-hands effort. Like Jim said, with the chamber and business owners and elected officials, and it's a fraction of the community, or it's a sliver of it, but it is that, it's a neat thing to see come to life.
Right. Anyway, with that, it's always a privilege to come and do this. It's something that I think the engagement is good. We're able to answer some questions. We understand the frustrations around a few things that happen. We're not addressing it. It's sometimes it takes time and more money, and it's going to be years, in addressing some of it. There are plans to address specifically our street maintenance and those types of things. We see it, we drive on it, we notice it, and it's concerning to us, but it is being addressed. It may not as fast as you think, but it's also budgetary constraints. I mean,
sure.
We can't just magically put $10 million into something.
Right.
It doesn't exist.
It's not there. Yep.
So we have to be judicious in how we do this, and we want the biggest bang for that dollar. We want to stretch every dollar that we can, and so it's important that we do that. But as always, I always tell people it's a privilege and an honor to be the mayor of a great city like this.
Sure is, yeah.
The people in this community are the best. I tell people all the time we're the largest small town in America.
Yep.
You might not feel the small town feel and charm, but I do, and it's about people.
Yep.
It's not. We've grown. We've got over 130,000 people live in town, but you can still have small town feel. And how you do that is neighbor helping neighbor.
Right.
If you see a need in our community, meet it. If you know someone that can help meet a need, get them involved. There are people in this community with giving hearts that have big hearts, and the small towns across America, what do?
Yeah.
Neighbor helping neighbor.
Yeah.
They're in it for the community. It's the community helping each other.
Sure.
And we have that in Pearland. I don't ever want to lose it. We have to be intentional sometimes.
But this, coming to Austin, that's a very intentional
and
thing.
we build relationships with the 85 people that are here,
Yep.
the business owners that are here, the different groups that are here from the chamber or this nonprofit or that nonprofit that are here. We're building those relationships.
Sure.
When we get back home, we have those relationships. So it's a good opportunity. And then several of our groups, first time they've ever been to the Capitol or first time they've ever been to Pearland Day.
I met
it's a big deal.
a parent that her daughter was not part of the delegation with Pearland ISD that was coming up, but they came up anyways because they wanted to experience this. They wanted to see what it was like.
It is an experience. If you've never been to the Capitol during
highly recommend it.
Session.
Yep.
Highly recommend. If nothing else, spend the day, come up.
It's powerful, yeah.
It's a powerful thing. And it truly is the legislature working for the people to get things done.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? You might not agree with everything that they do.
No. Well, they don't even agree
with
each other.
Yeah. You might not agree with everything that they can do. But I can tell you this, Republican, Democrat, Independent, doesn't matter who office you walk into, the people in that office are there to listen, are there to help, there to do everything they can to try to see and help you and move in, and give you the information that you need.
Yep.
With a smiling face on their, with a smile on their face. We were in an office today alone, they had 25 visits.
Yeah. And he sat down with us for almost half an hour to listen to the things that, and he started with, what's important to you,
Correct.
which was, I mean, that's
Right.
you know, amazing to me that they are willing to do that.
Right.
But it's real stuff happening. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, it's been good.
Well, thank you all for joining us today. We'll be back from Austin Thursday,
Yep.
so we'll be back in Pearland. Come by City Hall, say hi.
Yep.
And thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Good deal.